Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. Thanks for watching. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. First, we have some Bryan Kohberger news. The prosecutor's motion to reinstate charges against Alec Baldwin, well, I think that's dead on arrival. Hunter Biden changes his mind. We have another cowardly school shooter, and we have a story about a guy who may be the worst roommate possibly ever. And then our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
Hi, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and hit that little bell for notifications. All right? And you can also listen to us on any of your favorite podcasting apps as well. Now, before we get to the docket today, please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. Sign up for that background subscription service today. When you sign up, you can do as many background searches as you desire. Let's say you have somebody new coming into your life and you want to find out, gee, I don't know, are they bankrupt? Do they own property? Are they married? Are they divorced? Do they have to register on one of those public lists as to being maybe a sexual offender? Those types of things are everything that you'll be able to find out when you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. Listen, we use this stuff on a daily basis, and you never know what's going to come up on someone's criminal background. Go check that out at CrimeTalkSearch.com. All right, let's go ahead and get to the docket today. Let's open the record for September 5th of 2024. First, Bryan Kohberger. That's right. We're waiting on the judge's ruling as it relates to the change of venue. But guess what? There is a motions hearing also set in November. And what is that hearing going to be about? It's going to be about challenging the death penalty. That's right. Welcome to death penalty litigation, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't see it in a lot of death penalty cases, but normally what takes place is there's lots and lots of challenges to the death penalty statutes themselves. They're unconstitutional. They violate the Eighth Amendment for cruel and unusual punishment. They do all kinds of attacks on that. Haven't seen it a whole lot in a lot of the cases like the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell case, but we're going to see it here in the Kohberger matter. Anyway, as you may recall, the state obviously had to file their notice that they intended to seek the death penalty. And they did that back in June of 2023. And they said, quote, considering all evidence currently known to the state, that the state believes that this was a case that begged for the death penalty. They said the reasons for that were that they alleged that Kohberger's had a complete and utter disregard for human life, and his continuing threat to society are some of the factors that influenced the state's decision to go forward with the death penalty. Now, according to filings by the prosecutor, they believe there are currently 5 aggravating circumstances relating to the Idaho Code at issue regarding the death penalty. First, at the time of the murder that it was committed, the defendant also committed other murders. As you know, Bryan Kohberger is charged with 4 murders in this particular case. Next, the murder was especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity. Obviously, the murders took place all in one single night. There were 4 victims. They were all stabbed to death or died from some sort of fatal wound involving a knife. Next, by the murder or the circumstances surrounding its commission, the defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life. Well, certainly you can say, if you kill one person, I guess, well, it was an accident. We just didn't know, right? But no, we're talking 4 murders. Complete and utter disregard for human life? Perhaps. I think one could say so, yes. And next, the murder was committed in the perpetration of or attempt to perpetrate arson, rape, robbery, burglary, kidnapping, or mayhem, and the defendant killed, intended a killing, or acted with reckless indifference to human life. Now, obviously, Bryan Kohberger's been charged with burglary, right? Murder, burglary. Burglary is you go into the dwelling of another with the intent to commit another crime therein. Murder, rape. We don't know if any of those things other things took place, like sexual assaults. We have no evidence of that whatsoever. But certainly going in with the intent to kill somebody is burglary. And then you have reckless indifference to human life, extreme indifference to human life, ladies and gentlemen. Killing 4 people, I think that probably meets that criteria as well. And next, the state alleges that Bryan Kohberger, by his conduct, whether such conduct was before, during, or after the commission of the murder at hand, has exhibited a propensity to commit murder, which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society. Now, this is going to be a little tougher for the prosecution to possibly prove, but if the jury convicts Bryan Kohberger of the 4 murders, well, clearly you're a threat to the future. But the defense is going to say this aggravating factor doesn't exist because even if you believe this, well, maybe it was a heat of passion type of moment, but Bryan Kohberger has no real criminal history, so how could you say he's a continuing threat? Prosecution's rebuttal is obviously, if we get to the sentencing stage, he's been convicted of killing 4 people. That is the continuing threat to society. One would probably say that if you can kill 1 person after deliberation, yeah, you usually forfeit your right to walk among the civilized people in the world. All right. So the prosecution also says, considering all the evidence currently known to the state is compelled to file their notice of intent to seek the death penalty. Now, as you know, the trial has been set for next June of 2025. There'll be a lot more litigation regarding the death penalty. And obviously, if we actually get to trial, if there's no plea bargain that's worked out, we will have a trial. And if there's a conviction, then we will go to the death penalty phase, where these aggravating factors will be presented to the jury to decide whether, in fact, Bryan Kohberger is worthy of death. But as you know, as of right now, he's given the presumption of innocence. Let me know, ladies and gentlemen, do you think that what we know so far, is it worthy of the death penalty? Let me know. Some people are opposed to the death penalty for lots of reasons, morally, ethically, but let me know. Are you for it? If he's convicted, should he get the death penalty? Or spared his life to sit in a cell for the rest of his life? Assuming he is convicted, ladies and gentlemen. Next, the special prosecutor's motion to revive the case against Alec Baldwin. Well, I think it is dead on arrival. That's right. The special prosecutor in the case of Alec Baldwin is fighting to have charges refiled against Alec Baldwin and has asked the judge to reconsider her decision to dismiss all charges against Alec Baldwin after the judge declared a mistrial this summer. Now, for those who don't know, Mr. Baldwin, that's right, the actor Alec Baldwin, was charged with involuntary manslaughter for the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, who was shot and killed on that movie set Rust back in October of 2021. Now, the movie's director, Joel Souza, was also hit by a bullet as well. And Baldwin was alleged to have been practicing a scene and was holding the gun when it discharged, but Alec Baldwin denies that he ever pulled the trigger. Now, as you may recall, we were bringing you this trial, streaming it to you live here on Crime Talk, when the judge, Mary Marlowe Summer, dismissed all charges with prejudice, which usually means it can't be refiled, against Alec Baldwin back in July, after his attorneys accused the prosecution of withholding evidence in the case. The evidence that is in question were several bullets that were given to investigators by a guy by the name of Troy Teskey. Now, Mr. Teskey, who is a former police officer, stored ammunition for Phil Reed, who is Gutierrez's stepfather and a retired movie armorer. Well, that ammunition came under some scrutiny after the shooting when investigators were trying to determine where the live rounds actually came from. Well, Gutierrez's attorneys had asked an investigator in the case, Corporal Alexandria Hancock, to collect a series of rounds from Mr. Teskey and send them to the FBI to be tested. Hancock never did. And when Gutierrez's trial ended and Mr. Teskey had not been called to the stand, he took the rounds to the sheriff's office saying, I'm not sure what to do with these, but here they are. They may be related to the Rust shooting. You guys do with it what you want. Well, the prosecutor put a little memo together. The police did as well, but they booked it under a completely separate case number, so Alec Baldwin's attorneys didn't necessarily know that it was there. They should have booked it in under the Baldwin case and the Reed Gutierrez case. Anyway, there was a hearing held. The judge found that that was basically trying to hide this evidence. Frankly, I think it was of little exculpatory value to Mr. Baldwin in this particular case, but the prosecutor screwed it up. And even if it wasn't intentional, it sure looked like it was done intentionally because they booked it under a completely different case number, as though they were trying to hide the evidence. That's what the judge found. So Baldwin's attorneys filed a motion to dismiss, and they argued that his due process rights were violated when the prosecutors failed to hand over information about these bullets. But the prosecutor said it never occurred to her that the rounds could have been relevant to this case. Listen, if they're referencing the case, the shooting, it is relevant. You book it under the same case number. That's what you do. Anyway, the prosecutors claimed that there was no cover-up because there was nothing to cover up. And obviously she asked the judge to not grant the motion to dismiss. The judge did it, and ultimately the case was dismissed. Now that prosecutor says, hey, reinstate the charges here, because the bullets in question were not key to the prosecution's case. And in the filing, they noted that Mr. Baldwin still handled his gun recklessly in violation of his own union safety bulletins and New Mexico state law. And the case against Mr. Baldwin was solely based upon his actions when the gun was in his hand. That's the argument that the prosecutor is making. Now, no hearing has been scheduled on that particular motion, and unless the judge reverses her decision, there are going to be no charges filed. I personally believe that motion is dead on arrival because this judge is not going to say that, well, maybe I made a mistake in the heat of the moment, dismiss the case. Maybe I should have taken a little time to reflect. No, it's done. It's over. I get it. The district attorney is trying to, or the special prosecutor is trying to save a little face, give it one more shot, give it that old college try, but that case is over. But we have a little more news for you. The armorer, that's right, Hannah Gutierrez, she has agreed to plead guilty to bringing a gun into a bar in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and she's agreed to an 18-month sentence to probation. Now, as you know, Miss Gutierrez-Reed is already serving an 18-month prison sentence for the involuntary manslaughter conviction in the death of the cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Now, the plea does not alter anything in that particular case, and she could have faced up to 18 months in prison for bringing the gun into the bar, but will instead get to serve a supervised term of probation at her home in Arizona upon her release. Now, that hearing, as it relates to that case, was scheduled for today to argue whether that case should be thrown out. But the defense argued the special prosecutor lacked authority to bring the charge, and they say that it was really all in retaliation for Hannah Gutierrez refusing to accept the plea deal in the other case, and it was a result of an overly broad search as it relates to Gutierrez's phone. Anyway, that hearing has been canceled. The defense has instead asked that the hearing be set sometime soon so that Hannah Gutierrez can accept that plea deal. Now, there's going to be a separate hearing on September 26th for Hannah Gutierrez, and that's in regards to her motion that she filed for a new trial in her manslaughter case. Her defense has accused the prosecutor of failing to turn over key evidence that might have influenced the outcome of the trial. And the defense has also asked that she be released from prison pending the outcome of the motion for a new trial, or during the time that if a new trial is granted. We'll see what the judge does. Obviously, it is the same judge that came down pretty harsh for Hannah Gutierrez, but you have to make you think that maybe she won't give her a new trial, but maybe she'll reconsider the sentence, something to split the proverbial baby, so to speak, since Alec Baldwin, famous actor, got really good benefit of his high-powered lawyers, and Hannah Gutierrez maybe didn't get the same result. We'll see what the judge does, but judges normally don't like to change their mind and say they were wrong. We'll wait and see. Next, Hunter Biden changes his mind. That's right, Hunter Biden intends to, hasn't taken place by the time of this filming, but intends to plead guilty in his federal tax evasion case, which was kind of interesting since they were literally getting ready to bring in the jury for jury selection there in L.A. Apparently, Mr. Biden intends to change his plea to guilty, according to his attorney. And his attorney, Abby Lowell, told this to the judge literally as the jury was coming in. So, And apparently they were already going through the process of how the judge was going to handle jury selection, so it came as somewhat of a surprise. That must have been obviously Hunter Biden's decision to say, yes, I'll take it. Maybe he didn't like the look of those prospective jurors. Who knows? Or maybe he says, doesn't matter. My dad's going to give me a pardon, so it doesn't really matter. Let's just get this over with. Anyway, the prosecutor seemed a little surprised and said, hey, this is the first we've heard of it, and there's no apparent plea agreement in the case with the prosecutors. If he were to plead guilty, it would be open, so he would have to plead guilty to all of the charges, and then he would have to take his chances. Now, then the judge has to decide, is he going to remand him into custody or let him remain at liberty until sentencing? Anyway, the judge had ordered everyone back to see what they were going to do. And the defense wants to do something called an Alford plea, which is usually not done in federal court. An Alford plea is basically saying, hey, I'd like to maintain my innocence, but I also have a very good understanding that I could possibly be convicted in this particular case of not paying $1.4 million in taxes for the years of 2016 through 2019. So therefore, I'm going to plead guilty, but I still maintain my innocence. That's kind of having your cake and eat it too. Most federal judges don't do, in my experience, do an Alford plea. They want to know that you are in fact guilty. So most federal judges will say, tell me in your own words what you did. And you have to admit wrongful conduct. If not, they say, bring in the jury. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, obviously, if he goes to trial or pleads guilty, Mr. Biden could get up to 17 years behind bars. Very unlikely that he would get that, but you never know. But that certainly goes to his criminal history calculation when it comes to his gun case back in Delaware, where he faces up to 25 years. Once again, very unlikely that he would get the maximum sentence. We'll wait and see. Next, we got another school shooting coward. And this coward is a 14-year-old student who has been arrested after he opened fire at the Appalachia High School, killing 4 people and injuring many more. So this all took place on September 4th, about 10:20 yesterday Eastern time. And the Barrow County Sheriff's Office received an alert about an active school shooter. Deputies arrived within minutes, made contact with the school resource officer, who immediately encountered the coward, and within minutes of the report, and he surrendered. Who is this coward? Colt Gray. Like I said, he immediately surrendered when he had a gun pointed at him. Apparently, he's not a tough guy as he thinks he is when he's shooting at unarmed people. So I guess you could say sometimes it takes an armed person to stop a other armed bad person. The old good guy with a gun theory, I guess. Anyway, Mr. Gray, who's going to be charged as an adult, is a student at the high school and has apparently been speaking with police. What is also a little interesting is the fact that he has been on the FBI's radar for at least the last year, where he made some very specific threats about this. The FBI went and talked to him. He and his dad denied any allegations to this particular site where some comments were made, and case was closed. In this particular case, now 4 people are dead, 9 taken to the hospital. The deceased victims include 2 students and 2 teachers. Unbelievable. And next, the worst roommate ever. Okay, we've had lots of worst roommates ever, but this guy may be the worst. So this guy who lives in Arizona has pled guilty to not only murdering, but then dismembering his roommate and scattering her remains in trash bags across the desert. Please meet Timothy J. Sullivan, worst roommate ever. The trial was set to begin yesterday for the killing of Amy Ruby Leggins. Well, Sullivan ultimately copped to the plea of second-degree murder and concealing the body. Miss Leggins moved from Illinois to Chandler, Arizona back in April of 2020 to start a new life. Guess what? Mr. Sullivan admitted to killing her. Now, Sullivan also has a criminal history, including beating another woman, and Leggins yelled at him. He said that he snapped and then choked her to death. He said that Mr. Sullivan said that he had her body in the apartment for at least 2 days before he finally buried her in the backyard. But then he became worried, maybe someone would find her. So he then went out, dug her up, chopped her up into various pieces, and discarded the body parts in various trash cans. Now, Miss Leggins was last seen alive back in October of 2020, specifically on October 21st, and reported missing on October 27th. Her torso was found in a desert area, and remains were also discovered near the Salt River bottom in the city of Phoenix. Mr. Sullivan last year shifted to an insanity defense by arguing that he had a traumatic brain injury that resulted in him not knowing what he was doing when he killed Miss Leggins. Prosecutors obviously didn't believe that, since there had been no issues regarding his head injury prior to killing Miss Leggins. Well, needless to say, Mr. Sullivan didn't believe that was going to carry the day either, hence the reason why he pled guilty. Worst roommate ever. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Please meet Dr. Giovanni Balla, B-A-U-L-A. Now, he apparently sold a medical practice back in 2022 to a fellow doctor. Apparently, there's been some dispute between Dr. Balla and the new doctor, and Dr. Balla became upset over the business. Apparently, my guess is it's unclear exactly what the dispute was. More than likely, he wasn't probably getting paid what he thought he was entitled to, or missed payments or something to that effect. Anyway, so investigators allege that Mr. Balla went to the office that he used to own on July 30th and soaked the front door in gallons of fluid, which had an odor of urine. And then on August 17th, the good doctor allegedly returned to the property and again unleashed a cascade of something that had a very rank smell. On both occasions, guess what? There were video cameras that recorded the good doctor and his vehicle at the scene and pouring the liquids on the front door. Anyway, the urine-smelling liquid soaked into the front wooden doors, causing irreparable damage, and that cost $1,500 to replace the doors, according to the arrest affidavit. And the medical practice suffered another $6,000 in unrelated costs due to the urine attack. The good doctor, Dr. Balla, was arrested and charged with felony count of criminal mischief. He's been released on a $5,000 cash bond. Doctor, you're smarter than that. You know there's going to be video cameras out there. You didn't cover your face. You didn't go at night. You didn't walk up. You didn't go under the cover of darkness. You didn't low crawl. No, you didn't. You walked right up and you poured it. Part of me appreciates the boldness, but a part of me says that's pretty dumb. You're a doctor. You should know better. That's why you're a dumb criminal of the day. Congratulations, you made it. All right, that's all we have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. Please join us next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.